Mom, Dad has a girlfriend. Every time you go to work, he brings her to the house and they take all your money from the closet. My son blurted it out with the wide-eyed honesty only an 8-year-old can have. The world stopped. My suitcase was already by the door, my flight for a 3-day business trip booked weeks ago. But the moment those words hit me, I knew I wasn't going anywhere. I canceled the trip in my head on the spot and started planning something else entirely, a trap that would end this little game for good. Before we rewind a bit and I show you exactly how I did it, do me a favor, tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe so this channel can keep growing and bringing you more stories like this one. Trust me, you're going to want to stay to the end. What happened in my house over the next 3 days felt less like real life and more like a crime series. Except I was both the victim and the one directing the sting. Earlier that day, my black suitcase sat open on the bed, neatly packed. Work clothes for 3 days, laptop, contracts. Just another routine trip for a project manager like me. I adjusted my beige headscarf in the mirror, smoothing the pins until it sat perfectly. My face looked tired but composed, the way working moms always seem to look, pulled in every direction but determined to hold it together. I loved my job, I really did, but I hated leaving my son, Ethan. 3 days felt like 3 weeks whenever I was away from him. "Ethan, honey?" I called softly. Usually by now he'd be glued to me, pouting and bargaining for extra hugs. Instead, I found him standing in the hallway outside his room, staring at the floor like it had personally offended him. My heart pinched at the sight. I crouched to his level and tried to sound cheerful. "Hey, champ, why so quiet? It's only 3 days. I'll bring you that robot you liked from the toy store, remember?" He lifted his face, and something in his eyes made my stomach twist. It wasn't normal sadness. It was fear. "Claire, taxi's here," my husband Mark shouted from downstairs. "You're going to miss your flight," I called back. "1 second, then focused on Ethan again. "You'll be good for Dad, right? Listen to him, okay?" The second I said Dad, his little body went rigid. It was such a strange reaction that I actually frowned. "Ethan, are you sick?" I whispered. He shook his head quickly, took a step forward, and threw his arms around my neck. His hug was so tight I could barely breathe. When I tried to pull back, he held on harder, put his mouth right by my ear, and whispered, "Mom." He trembled. "Please don't go." I smiled automatically, still thinking this was just separation anxiety. "It's just a few days, sweetheart. Dad has a girlfriend," he blurted into my ear. For a second, I didn't even process the words. "What?" My voice came out as air. He clung to me as if he was terrified someone would overhear. "When you go to work, Dad brings her here, to your room. And they take your money. The money in the wooden box in your closet. Dad said if I tell you, you'll be sad and you'll leave me." His whisper broke into little sobs. My heart dropped into an icy pit. The wooden box, my emergency stash, cash that had been disappearing, a little at a time, for months. I had blamed our longtime housekeeper, Maria. We trusted her like family, and Mark was the one who insisted she must be stealing. I saw again the day he fired her while I was at work, the way she'd sobbed, swearing she hadn't taken a cent, and I had doubted her. Now my own son was telling me it was Mark. My husband hadn't just been cheating, he'd been robbing me in my own home and framing someone else to cover his tracks. Grief hit first, like a knife to the chest. Then something colder slid in behind it. Rage, not the screaming, out-of-control kind, but a sharp, focused anger that cleared my head. I stroked Ethan's hair and kept my voice steady. "You did the right thing telling me, Ethan. You're brave, and I'm so proud of you." The taxi honked outside again. Time was up. I could leave and let them enjoy their little vacation with my money, or I could stay and make sure it was the last time they ever tried anything like this. I already knew which one I would choose. "Listen to me carefully," I whispered, pulling back so I could see his face. "From now on, Mommy is going to pretend to be very sick. A terrible headache, okay? Don't be scared, and don't say anything to Dad. This is our secret mission, you understand?" His eyes widened, then lit with a strange, shaky excitement. He nodded. "Good. Now go to your room, play your games, and lock the door. Don't come out until I call you." He obeyed without a word, and I heard the soft click of his lock. I took one deep breath, set my shoulders, and walked toward the stairs. Mark stood at the bottom, face red with irritation. "What are you doing? The taxi's been waiting forever. Do you want to miss your flight?" I made it to the last step, then let my body sway dramatically. "Ow!" I grabbed the wall and closed my eyes as if the room was spinning. In an instant, his expression changed from anger to confusion. "Claire, what's wrong?" I opened my eyes slowly, making them unfocused. "My head," I whispered. "Everything's spinning. I can't even stand up straight. It's like my vertigo is back. There's no way I can get on a plane like this." For a split second before concern slid onto his face, I saw it. Pure disappointment. Not worry about my health, disappointment that I wasn't leaving. Then his mask snapped into place. "Oh my God, you're pale," he said, rushing to support me. "Forget the trip. We'll cancel. Work can wait. Your health comes first." His arm around my shoulders made my skin crawl, but I let him lead me back to our bed, that I now imagined him sharing with someone else. "I'll call the taxi," he said. "I'll let your office know you're sick." "No," I cut in weakly. "I'll email them later. You just handle the taxi." He hesitated, then nodded and left the room. I listened from the bed. First his voice downstairs apologizing to the driver, then silence, then footsteps returning. He came back with a glass of water, fussing like a devoted husband. "Drink. Don't worry about anything. I'll stay home if I have to." "You should go to work," I murmured, eyes half closed. "It's just a headache. I'll sleep it off." He weighed his options. If he stayed, he couldn't see his girlfriend. If he went, he could reschedule his little party for another day. "Okay," he finally agreed. "Call me if it gets worse." When I told him I needed the bathroom, he offered to help, but I waved him off and shuffled inside alone, leaving the door just slightly open. I turned on the tap so the running water would cover any small sounds, then stood behind the door and listened. There was a long pause, and then I heard the rapid tapping of his thumbs on his phone. A text. Probably to her. I didn't need to see the screen to know. His secret had already been dragged into the light by a child. I flushed the toilet, washed my hands for show, and went back to bed, face carefully blank. The next morning, after a night of exaggerated moans and fake dizziness, Mark hovered at the bedroom door in his work clothes. "Are you sure you'll be okay alone? Ethan has school, and the new cleaning lady only comes at 9. I pulled the blanket up to my nose and made my voice raspy. "I'm fine. I just need sleep. If anything happens, I'll call. Go, before you're late." He lingered, torn between his fake concern and his other life, then said, "I'll order food for you at lunch, and I'll try to come home early." I watched him leave, waited for the sound of the car pulling away, then counted a full 10 minutes. When I was sure he was gone for real, I got up. My vertigo vanished instantly. I locked the bedroom door, sat at my vanity, and picked up my phone. The first call was to our family lawyer, Mr. Lewis, who had handled my late father's business affairs for years. "Claire, is everything all right?" he asked. "Not really," I said quietly. I told him about the missing cash, the affair, the possibility of more serious financial abuse. "I need proof, solid proof, for a divorce and, if necessary, criminal charges. I'm thinking hidden cameras in my own bedroom and home office. Is that legal?" He was silent for a moment. "As long as the house and those rooms are yours," he finally said, "and you're doing it to protect your property and gather evidence of a crime, those recordings should be admissible, especially if we can show theft or a planned assault." His voice softened. "Claire, this is serious. Don't confront him until you have everything. Let the law do its job." "That's exactly what I'm planning," I replied. When I hung up, my hand shook for the first time, not from fear, but from the weight of what I was about to do. I set the phone down, then picked it up again. I needed someone more practical. A colleague had once mentioned a private investigator they'd used to uncover fraud at the office. I dug through old messages until I found the number labeled Ryan Investigations. "Ryan Investigations," a calm male voice answered. "Ryan, my name is Claire. I need discrete cameras with audio in 2 rooms of my house, my bedroom and my office. My husband can't know. I need everything installed tomorrow, and I also need a nearby hotel room set up as a monitoring station 2 days from now. Can you do that?" He didn't gasp or ask for drama. "We can, ma'am. Micro cameras hidden in a digital clock, a smoke detector, a picture frame, live feed to your phone or a laptop. Text me your address and a rough floor plan." The third call was the hardest. My thumb hovered over Maria's name, the woman who had lived in our house almost as long as we had, the woman Mark had accused of stealing from me. The call rang so long I almost gave up. Finally, she answered, voice wary. "Hello? Maria? It's Claire." Silence. I could hear her breathing, but she didn't speak. "Maria, I owe you an apology," I choked out. Tears pricked my eyes, real this time. "I know now you never stole anything. I should have believed you. I let Mark convince me you were the thief. I was blind, and I'm so sorry." On the other end, she sobbed softly. "Mrs. Claire, you believe me now?" "I do," I said firmly. "And I'm going to prove it, but I need your help. Please, come to the house tomorrow at 11. I'll explain everything. I promise you won't be in danger. I can't do this alone." She hesitated, then whispered, "I'll come. For you, and for Ethan." That boy never looked at me like I was a thief. When I ended the call, I felt the first tiny crack of relief. I couldn't erase what I'd done to her, but I could at least make sure the real thief paid for it. The next morning, before Mark woke up, I sat on the bed looking a little better but still pale. "You're up early," he said, toweling his hair. "Feeling any better?" "A bit," I answered. "But I still didn't sleep well. I keep waking up. The doctor said rest is the most important thing. Could you do me a huge favor?" I let my eyes go soft. "Could you take Ethan out for the day? Maybe to the mall, your mom's house, wherever. If the house is quiet, I might finally get some real sleep." I watched his eyes light up like a kid at Christmas. "Of course," he said too quickly. "Great idea. Poor kid's been bored at home anyway. I'll take him to the arcade." He shouted up the stairs that they were going out, and Ethan answered with exaggerated excitement, playing his part perfectly. At 9 o'clock they left, Ethan pausing to hug me and whisper, "Good luck, Mom," before stepping outside. By 10, the house was empty. Exactly on time, the doorbell rang. Ryan showed up with an assistant and 2 nondescript tool bags. "Let's move fast," I said, letting them in. They worked like ghosts, silent and efficient, wires and lenses disappearing into everyday objects. In the living room, they disguised another camera inside a decorative wall clock, its tiny lens trained on the front door and the sofa. In the master bedroom, Ryan hid one camera inside a sleek digital clock on the nightstand, another in the smoke detector on the ceiling, both with a clear view of the bed and closet. In my home office, he tucked a camera into the frame of a family photo on the bookshelf, its tiny eye aimed straight at my desk and the small safe behind it. At 11, the bell rang again. Maria stood on the porch, thinner than I remembered, her shoulders hunched, eyes full of uncertainty. I pulled her into a hug before she could even say hello. "I'm so sorry," I whispered. "You were loyal for 10 years and I let him destroy your name." We sat at the kitchen table while Ryan finished upstairs. I told her everything, Ethan's confession, the missing cash, the affair. "My own husband has been stealing from me with another woman and put it on you," I said, my voice shaking with anger. Maria's eyes went wide with horror, then narrowed with a cold rage I'd never seen on her face. "Men like that always think God doesn't see," she muttered. "But he does." I explained the cameras, the plan to trap them on video, and how I wanted her there when it all came crashing down. "I want you to see justice with your own eyes," I said. She nodded, wiping her cheeks. "Then I'll stand beside you." When Ryan was done, he showed me the app on my phone. 4 tiny live windows: living room, office, bedroom from the clock, bedroom from the smoke detector. "All online, encrypted," he said. "We've also booked a room at the Riverside Hotel about 10 minutes from here. Day after tomorrow, we'll set up a full monitoring station. You can watch everything in real time." After he and Maria left, I took the last step. I opened my closet, pulled out the wooden box Mark thought he'd emptied forever. It was, of course, completely bare. From my work bag, I took 5 neat stacks of $100 bills, $5,000 I'd withdrawn the day before. I photographed the serial numbers on the top bill of each stack, zooming in so there could be no doubt later. Then, I placed the money in the box and slid it back into the closet, exactly where it had always been. The bait was set. That evening, Mark and Ethan came home with shopping bags and smiles. Ethan had a new toy. Mark had the smug glow of a man who believed himself clever. "Feeling better?" he asked brightly. "I slept like a baby," I answered, and for the first time in 2 days that wasn't entirely a lie. My fear had been replaced by a strange, calm anticipation. On the third morning, the kitchen felt almost cheerful. I wore a navy blazer and a dark blue headscarf, my usual work armor, spreading peanut butter on Ethan's toast like any other day. "So work understands?" Mark asked, sipping his coffee. "About you canceling the trip?" "They were great," I said casually. "So great that they rescheduled the client meeting to today." He nearly choked. "Today? You mean you're flying out this morning?" "I booked a new ticket at dawn," I said. "Flight's at 10. Luckily, I feel completely fine now." The grin that spread across his face would have made me sick if I hadn't expected it. "Fantastic," he said, maybe a little too loudly. "Professionals like you don't let a headache stop them. I'll drive you. No way I'm letting you handle this alone after the scare we had." "You don't have to," I protested politely. "I can grab a cab." "Absolutely not," he insisted. "I'll make sure you get on that plane safely." "Oh, I'm sure you will," I thought. "And while he gets me safely into the terminal, you can make sure your girlfriend knows the coast is clear. By the way, if you're still watching this story, tap that like button now. It really helps the channel. And tell me in the comments what you would have done in my place." Half an hour later, the same black suitcase stood by the front door. I knelt in front of Ethan, hugged him tight, but this time there was no secret to whisper. Just a look between us, an agreement we didn't need words for. "Be good, okay?" I said. "Take care of the house." He nodded, eyes steady. "You too, Mom." The drive to the airport was strangely upbeat. Mark turned the music up, drummed his fingers on the steering wheel, and cracked jokes about business travel. "How long will you be gone?" he asked. 3 days, 2 nights, I answered. "Probably won't be back until late the day after tomorrow." "Text me when you land," he said. "Don't forget to eat. You just got better." At the terminal, he unloaded my suitcase and insisted on walking me to the glass doors. "I'll wait here until you go inside," he promised, smiling like a devoted husband. "Love you. Good luck." He hugged me, pressed his lips to my forehead, and stepped back. I pulled my suitcase toward the sliding doors, joined the flow of passengers, and walked straight past the first check-in lines. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a message from Ryan. "We're in position." I didn't get in line. Instead, I veered right into the corridor that connected departures to arrivals, following a route I'd memorized. In the arrivals hall, I headed into the biggest restroom, ducked into a stall, and locked the door. The blazer and headscarf went into the suitcase. I swapped them for a plain brown dress, a simple black scarf, oversized glasses, and a disposable mask. In 5 minutes, the polished project manager vanished. In the mirror, I looked like any tired mom waiting for a relative to arrive. I wheeled my suitcase out with everyone else, left through the arrivals exit, and ordered a rideshare on a secondary account I'd set up in advance. Destination, Riverside Hotel. During the short drive, I opened the app Ryan had installed. My screen split into 4 live feeds. My house was still empty. At the hotel, I went straight up to room 502 and knocked 3 times. Ryan opened the door, and the living room had been transformed into a tiny command center. 2 laptops on a table, both showing enlarged versions of the same 4 feeds I had on my phone. Maria sat on a chair, clutching her rosary, eyes glued to the screens. "You made it," I said. She stood, hugged me quickly, then sat again, unable to look away. We waited. 11:10, the front door camera flickered to life. Mark walked in, still in the shirt he'd worn to the airport, whistling. He tossed his keys on the console, checked his phone, and dialed. "Hey, baby!" His voice came clearly through the speakers. "All clear. Her plane's gone. I dropped her off myself. Get over here. I miss you." In the hotel room, all three of us held our breath. 15 minutes later, the doorbell rang on the living room feed. Mark practically sprinted to the door. A tall woman in a tight red dress strutted in, Vanessa, the colleague I'd once heard rumors about and chosen to ignore. She flung herself into his arms, kissing him deeply right in front of the hidden camera. Maria turned away, muttering, "God have mercy." I didn't look away. I watched them, like a hunter watches prey. "I've missed you so much," Vanessa purred, glancing around my living room with obvious satisfaction. "Finally, this place is free of St. Clair." Mark laughed. "Shh, the cleaning lady might come by later." "Who cares?" Vanessa scoffed, tossing her purse on the sofa where Ethan usually watched cartoons. "You fired that old maid, remember? What was her name? Maria? Good riddance. I hate extra eyes." Maria flinched at the sound of her name, eyes blazing. "Don't worry," Mark said, hugging Vanessa from behind. "This house is ours now, at least for the next 3 days." She pushed him playfully. 3 days isn't enough. You promised me more than this, Mark. You promised you'd divorce her." "Patience, babe," he soothed, guiding her to the sofa. "The plan is in motion. You saw how sick she was. That's our leverage. We'll push her until she breaks. Stress, depression, all of it. Then we make her look unstable. Once a psychiatrist signs off on that, she'll lose everything. The money, the house, even Ethan." The name of my son made my hands curl into fists. Vanessa pouted. "I don't care about diagnoses. I came here for something real." She looked pointedly toward the stairs. "You said she keeps cash in this place." Mark's eyes gleamed. "Oh, trust me, she does. Come on. Let's collect our paycheck." On the bedroom feed, we watched them climb the stairs hand in hand, laughing. Ryan leaned close to me. "We already have enough. Adultery, theft, conspiracy," he whispered. "We can stop this now." "Not yet," I said. "I want the whole story." On screen, they entered my bedroom. Vanessa picked up our wedding photo from the nightstand, sneered at my smiling face, ripped the picture out of the frame, crushed it in her hand, and tossed it into the trash before setting the empty frame back down. Then she ran her fingers along my hanging clothes. "No style at all," she sniffed. "When we live here, I'm throwing all this out." Mark ignored her and crouched at the bottom of the closet, pulling out the wooden box. "There it is," he said, placing it on the bed, right on the white sheets I'd slept on that morning. Vanessa's eyes lit up. "Now we're talking." She flipped the lid. We watched her eyes widen at the sight of the neatly stacked bills. "Oh my God, Mark, this is a lot." "About $5,000, he said, voice smug. "And that's just a tiny appetizer. I've been draining her stash for months. She refills it every time. It's adorable." Vanessa scooped up the money and tossed it into the air, laughing as it rained down over the bed. "I love you," she giggled, rolling in the bills like a child in autumn leaves. "You're a genius." "And this is just the beginning," he said, lying back next to her, staring at my ceiling. "She thinks she's this powerful career woman, but she's just a cash cow. Most of her inheritance is in investments and savings accounts, all in her name, sure, but I know every password. She trusts me completely." On the hotel sofa, Maria sucked in a sharp breath. Ryan's fingers flew over his keyboard, noting timestamps. "If we cash out everything at once, she'll notice and go straight to the police," Vanessa argued, starting to gather the bills again. "Relax," Mark said, his voice turning colder. "We won't do it all at once. We'll make it look like she's doing it herself." He sat up, eyes gleaming with a calculation I'd clearly never seen, or refused to see. "We'll start with small transfers from her accounts to shell accounts I control. I'll use her cards to buy luxury items online and ship them to a rental address. If she notices, it'll look like she went on some crazy shopping spree during a breakdown. And to make sure she breaks," he lowered his voice, but the hidden microphone caught every word, "I'll start slipping her something, a mild tranquilizer. I'll tell her it's vitamins for her vertigo. Just a little in her drinks, enough to make her forgetful, emotional, unreliable." In the hotel room, Maria covered her mouth with both hands. "He's a devil," she whispered. Ryan glanced at me. "That's premeditated poisoning, Mrs. Clare. This is beyond theft." On screen, Mark continued, almost proud. "She'll start making mistakes at work, missing school pickups, acting erratic. Then I'll take her to a friendly psychiatrist, someone who understands how to write the right report. Major depression, maybe bipolar, something serious. In 6 months, we can get a court to declare her unfit to manage her own finances. Guess who the judge will appoint as guardian of all her assets? He grinned at Vanessa. Me, her devoted, long-suffering husband. And Ethan? Vanessa asked, suddenly less smug. You told me you'd get custody too. I don't want a kid she keeps running back to. Once she's officially unstable, getting full custody will be easy, Mark said. We'll put her in a nice rehab center, sell the house, the car, everything. We'll have all her money and the kid, and she won't be able to do a thing. That was it. Hearing my son's name used like a bargaining chip flipped a switch inside me. I stood up so fast my chair scraped. Enough, I said. We have more than we need. My voice sounded calm, almost detached, but my hands were trembling with controlled fury. I turned to Ryan. Call the police. No sirens. I want them coming in quiet after I give the signal. Bring Mr. Lewis to the house with them. He has full power of attorney to represent me. Ryan nodded and started making calls. Meanwhile, I picked up my phone again. 2 more invitations, I murmured. First, I rang Mark's mother. Mom? I let my voice shake and added a sob for good measure. It's Claire. I'm at the airport. A neighbor just called. There's some kind of accident at the house. They heard a loud crash and shouting, and Mark isn't answering his phone. Please, can you go check on him? I'm trying to get back as fast as I can. She panicked immediately, promising to leave that second. I hung up, then searched for the number of Vanessa's parents. I'd seen it once in Mark's HR files at work and quietly taken a picture, a detail I'd never imagined would be useful. Hello, Mr. Dawson. This is Claire from Mark's office. I'm sorry to bother you. I think your daughter might be in trouble. A neighbor called about a disturbance at our house, and Mark and Vanessa aren't picking up. I'm on my way there now, but I thought you'd want to know. He demanded the address. His voice shook with concern. When I ended the call, I smoothed my scarf, grabbed my bag, and nodded to Ryan. Let's end this. The drive from the hotel back to our neighborhood took less than 10 minutes, but every second dragged like an hour. I sat in the front seat of Ryan's car. Maria sat in the back, hands clenched around her bag. Another car followed, carrying 2 plainclothes security officers Ryan worked with regularly. I stared out the window, watching familiar streets roll by, but they felt different now. For years I'd driven home believing I was heading toward safety. Today I was heading toward a crime scene I had allowed to grow in my blind spot. There were no tears left, no trembling, just a block of ice where my heart used to be. We stopped a few houses before mine, hidden by a large tree. We walk from here, Ryan said softly. I stepped out into the heavy afternoon air and walked to my own gate with steady steps. No doorbell, no knocking, just the key that had been mine from the beginning. The lock turned with a soft click that sounded strangely loud. Inside, the air conditioning hummed. The living room, on the surface, looked as neat as always, but the details screamed that something was wrong. A cheap cloud of unfamiliar perfume, a can of soda on the coffee table, a bright red handbag sprawled across my pale couch. And above us, from the bedroom, we heard laughter. Vanessa's light, breathy giggle. Mark's deeper, satisfied chuckle. They were still upstairs, still rolling around in my sheets with my money. I glanced at Maria. Her jaw was clenched so tight I thought it might crack, but she nodded. Ryan and the 2 security men fanned out behind us. I climbed the stairs at a normal pace, not bothering to sneak. Each step felt like a drumbeat. At the top, my bedroom door stood slightly ajar. Voices drifted out. After this, let's order something fancy, Vanessa was saying. That grilled salmon from the expensive place. Whatever you want, Mark replied. Anything for you. I put my hand on the door and pushed it open. The scene inside was almost a perfect replay of what we'd seen on the screen. Vanessa in nothing but red lingerie, Mark shirtless in his work pants, both surrounded by scattered bills on my white duvet. They froze mid-laugh, their joy evaporating in an instant. Mark's face drained of color as he realized exactly who stood in the doorway. His sick wife, supposed to be on a plane, headscarf neatly in place, eyes like stone. Vanessa shrieked and grabbed for the sheet, yanking it up over her body. Behind me, Maria stepped into view, and on either side of the doorframe, 2 large men in plain clothes blocked any chance of escape. Claire, Mark gasped, sliding off the bed, hands lifted as if he could physically push my anger away. This isn't what it looks like. I can explain. I glanced at my watch, then back at him. I took an earlier flight, I said coolly. It was such a simple sentence, but I could see it land like a punch. His eyes flicked from me to the strangers behind me to the money on the bed, and he finally understood. This wasn't a surprise visit. This was an ambush. He spun around, pointing at Vanessa. "This is her fault," he shouted, panic breaking through. "She seduced me. She pressured me to take the money. Are you serious?" Vanessa screamed back, clutching the sheet. "You're the one who called your wife a cash cow. You're the one who fired the housekeeper and said we'd live here after you ruined her. You're the one who planned everything." Their voices rose, accusations flying as they scrambled to rewrite the story mid-disaster. I didn't bother to interrupt. I let them tear each other apart for a moment. Then Maria stepped forward, stopping right in front of Mark, who had collapsed to his knees. "Mr. Mark," she said, voice trembling but loud, "I cooked for you, cleaned for you, cared for your son for 10 years. You threw me out like trash, called me a thief." She jabbed a finger toward the bed, toward the money, toward Vanessa. "Turns out the real rats were you two all along." Mark opened his mouth, but no excuses came out. He turned back to me, crawling forward on his knees, reaching for my feet. "Claire, please," he begged, tears finally spilling. "Forgive me. I was stupid. Don't do this. Think of Ethan. Think of our family." I stepped back, kicking his hand away. "Don't you dare say my son's name," I hissed. "Not after I heard you plotting to take him away from me and drug me into a coma." I looked at Ryan. "Separate them. No more talking to each other." The security officers hauled Mark to one end of the small sofa and Vanessa to the other, keeping a firm grip on both. "Claire, what is this?" Mark demanded, voice cracking. "You can't just storm in here with strangers and—" Footsteps thundered up the stairs, cutting him off. "Mark, Claire," his mother's voice called, shaky and panicked. She appeared in the doorway, still wearing the long prayer robe she'd clearly thrown on in a hurry. Her eyes scanned the room. Her half-naked son, the crying woman wrapped in a sheet, the money scattered everywhere, the strangers, the wedding photo ripped and crumpled in the trash, and me standing in the middle of it all. Her face crumpled. "What is this?" she whispered. Before anyone could answer, more footsteps sounded. Vanessa's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Dawson, arrived pale and breathless, having followed the address I'd given. They took in the same nightmare tableau. Their daughter with a stranger's husband, handcuffed by shame, surrounded by cash and witnesses. "Vanessa," her father said, his voice cold and stunned. "What have you done?" She burst into tears. "Dad, it's not what it—" "No," I cut in, finally taking the remote Ryan handed me. "Tonight we're not going to argue about whose version is true. We're going to watch the truth together." Ryan had already connected his laptop to the big TV in our room. With a click, the screen lit up. 4 camera views appeared. First, the living room feed. Mark walking in after dropping me at the airport, whistling, calling Vanessa baby, telling her my plane was gone and the house was theirs. Then them kissing, laughing, calling me St. Clair and a cash cow. On the bed, the real Mark stared at his own image in horror. "Turn it off," he rasped. "Please, Claire, turn it off." I ignored him and skipped ahead. The bedroom feed filled the screen. We watched him pull out the wooden box, watched Vanessa open it and squeal over the money, watched them toss the bills in the air. His own recorded voice explained calmly how he'd been draining my cash for months. I hit pause. "That's theft," I said quietly. "From your wife, in her own home, while framing someone else." Then I fast-forwarded to the part even I could barely stand to hear again. His voice came from the speakers, smooth and confident, explaining how he'd slip me tranquilizers and call them vitamins, how he'd make me look unstable, get a psychiatrist to sign the right papers, have me declared legally incompetent so he could control my accounts and have me locked in a facility, then take Ethan away. The room went dead silent. Mark's mother swayed, catching herself on the doorframe. Vanessa's parents stared at the screen, mouths open. Vanessa herself shook her head, whispering, "I didn't know about the drugs. I swear, I didn't know." Mark didn't beg then. He just stared at the frozen image of his own smirking face on the screen. as if seeing a stranger. Finally, I turned the TV off. "You didn't just want my money," I said. "You wanted my sanity, my child, my whole life." I picked up my phone and dialed. "Mr. Lewis, you can come upstairs now," I said. A moment later, our lawyer appeared with 2 uniformed police officers. "Officers," he said calmly, "this is my client, Claire. This is her house. Those 2 on the sofa are her husband, Mark, and his mistress, Vanessa. As you can see," he gestured to the camera feeds and the money, "they've been caught in the act of theft and are recorded conspiring to commit far more serious crimes." Ryan handed over a hard drive and a printed summary. "Full recordings, unedited with timestamps," he said. The officers took in the scene, looked at Mark and Vanessa, then at me. "Mr. Mark, Miss Dawson," one of them said, "you're both under arrest on suspicion of theft, fraud, and conspiracy to administer a harmful substance. You have the right to remain silent." Vanessa started screaming, promising to pay everything back. Mark begged, switching from anger to tears to threats in seconds. The officer slipped cold metal cuffs around his wrists, then around hers. The unmistakable click echoed louder than any shout. They were led past their families, heads hanging, lives falling apart in real time. As the front door shut behind them downstairs and the squad car pulled away, siren wailing in the distance, my bedroom finally fell quiet. It felt like a stranger's room. Bed rumpled from someone else's body heat, money scattered like dirty confetti, my wedding photo crushed in the trash. Mark's mother sank to the floor where he'd been kneeling minutes earlier, sobbing silently. Vanessa's parents left with their heads down, too ashamed to say a word. Mr. Lewis cleared his throat. "Claire, we have everything we need. The criminal case will move quickly given the recordings. As for the divorce and custody, the judge won't have much to debate." I nodded, suddenly exhausted. "Start the divorce," I said. "I want full custody of Ethan. I don't want Mark anywhere near him. Use every second of those recordings." "We will," he assured me. "This is not just infidelity. It's organized abuse and attempted poisoning. The law will be on your side." After he left, only Maria and I remained in the ruined room. For the first time since Ethan's whisper, tears finally spilled down my face. Not angry tears, but bitter ones. I turned to her. "There isn't enough money in the world to make up for what we did to you," I said. "I let him destroy your name. I chose the wrong person to trust." Maria shook her head and took my hands. "You're a victim too," she said softly. "He's the one who lied. God didn't sleep. He let the truth come out." Still, I walked to my desk, pulled out my checkbook, and wrote a number that made her eyes double in size, enough to buy a small house or start a business. "This is yours," I said firmly, pressing it into her hands. "Use it to start over. Open the catering company you always talked about. I don't want you cleaning other people's houses anymore. I want you to be your own boss." She tried to refuse, but I wouldn't hear it. Months passed. The recordings made everything brutally simple in court. To reduce her sentence, Vanessa testified against Mark, confirming that the plan to drug me and take my assets had been entirely his idea. The judge sentenced Mark to 12 years in prison for theft, fraud, and attempted administration of a harmful substance. Vanessa received 3 years for her role in the theft and conspiracy. Their names and faces briefly went viral online as examples of how far betrayal can go, though I avoided most of the coverage. Our divorce was finalized in a single hearing. I was granted full legal and physical custody of Ethan. Mark was denied visitation rights. I sold the house that had become a monument to betrayal and bought a bright apartment downtown, closer to my office and far away from the ghosts of that bedroom. Maria took my advice, opened a small home cooking catering business, and within a year had 3 employees and more orders than she could handle. Sometimes she brought food over and refused to let me pay, laughing that I'd already done more than enough. Mark's mother visited Ethan occasionally, always careful not to mention her son. She looked older, smaller, but there was a quiet gratitude in her eyes whenever she saw her grandson safe and smiling. 1 year later, on a soft orange evening, I sat on the balcony of our 25th floor apartment, sipping hot tea as the city lights flickered on. Ethan, now 9, sat at the little table beside me, tongue between his teeth as he worked through his math homework. "Mom, What's 125 divided by 5? He asked, frowning. Try it yourself first, I said, smiling. I know you can do it. My phone buzzed on the table. A message from Mr. Lewis. Good news. Mark's final appeal was denied. The sentence is now fully confirmed. Case closed. I stared at the words for a moment, waiting for some rush of satisfaction. Instead, I felt something quieter. Relief. I put the phone face down without replying right away. Whatever happened to Mark from now on was between him and his conscience. My job was done. I got it, Ethan burst out. It's 25. That's my boy, I laughed, reaching over to ruffle his hair. I looked out at the glittering city, the traffic like streams of light far below. The darkest storm of my life had passed. Justice had been done, not perfectly, not neatly, but enough. I had my freedom, my work, my home, and most importantly, my son. The two of us sat there, side by side, breathing in the cool evening air, ready for whatever new chapter waited for us next.